How does the culture in Portugal address the huge role that they played historically in the slave trade? In my opinion, as a foreigner, it kind of just doesn't. Now, needless to say, I did not go through the school system here, so I cannot speak to how that period of history is taught. And I would love to hear from Portuguese people about how they are taught about that part of their history and that period of their history, if anybody's willing to politely share. What I can speak to, though, is my very acute awareness of how Portuguese people talk about colonization and, not generally speaking, their colonization. And what I mean by that is that Portuguese, both in person and on social media, like here on TikTok, have, whether serious or joking, made comments about British people and American people being colonizers past and present. And that all is very well and true, but what is lacking in those comments that they make is any level of self-awareness, because they are some of the OG colonizers. And obviously, coming from that history doesn't make Portuguese people now bad people, but you gotta recognize your history. And I also will say that the general vibe about how Portuguese people feel about Brazilians moving to their country, it ain't good. I have deleted many a comment here on my TikTok page about how Portuguese people think Brazilians shouldn't be here. And I have had in person with people I know in real life weird conversations about things like how the Brazilians are quote unquote bastardizing the Portuguese language. What's missing in that is, why do these group of people on the other side of an ocean speak a language that came from your country? It's colonization. And one might say that it's playful in the way that the Brits say that Americans have bastardized English, even though one could argue that that's not playful. But there's no question that the dynamics of the relationships between those two groups of countries, so the Brits and the Americans versus the Portuguese and the Brazilians, are clearly very different. So, talking about colonization doesn't directly answer the question about the role that the Portuguese history took in the slave trade, but I think obviously those things go hand in hand. So that's at least my observations as a foreigner who's lived here for 2+ years and has talked to, I'm not afraid to talk to Portuguese people about these things, but politely, I'd be very interested to hear what Portuguese people think. And I guess it's important also to realize that I gave some anecdotal examples there, but I think that the question really is about a cultural, how does the culture respond to this history rather than on an individual level, because I'm sure there's lots of great Portuguese. I mean, I know there are. So you might kind of have one relationship with your history, but you might be aware that culturally your country has a different one, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.